we really have two parts. And there's a teaching in the word human being. And the human part changes every day. Like you and I are very different than when we were 8 years old from a human viewpoint.
Mm-hmm.
But from a being viewpoint, which think of being as the observer, the eternal I am, well, the being doesn't change. And the 8-year-old observer is the same as it is now and is it the same as it will always be. And when I say observer, think of it as that which watches your thoughts. And one of the disciplines, the internal discipline, is the ability to just watch your thoughts.
Hello and welcome to I Love Being Sober. My name is Tim Westbrook. I'm your host. I am here with Jason Campbell of Zen Wellness. And being clean and sober is so much more than just not drinking and doing drugs. There's way more to it. And so I can remember, I'm going to tell a story. I remember about a year ago, I was with one of our clients, one of our residents. We were up at a treatment center, and this was a resident that was disgruntled. And it was myself, our program director, Anthony Tatum. We were up at the Meadows Outpatient Center, and this resident was literally screaming, and he was just completely flying off the handle. And he said, he stopped and he said, "I'm very concerned that Tim is not giving us a bigger reaction. I'm concerned that he's not giving us a bigger reaction, and I'm concerned that he's not really taking this seriously." And my response was, "Well, I'm here to listen, and I'm here to see what I can do to make this situation right." And what I realized after that meeting was that the guy was looking for a reaction. He was looking for a response. I was talking with a guy named Paul Sugar, who's the director of the mindfulness-based stress reduction course. And I was actually in the process of taking his class at that time. And I talked with him about it. And he said, it's because he wanted a reaction because he's addicted to adrenaline. And
right.
Many people are addicted to chaos. They're addicted to chaos. They're addicted to adrenaline. This guy was really early on in recovery. He went to inpatient treatment at the Meadows, and then he was probably a few days out. And he just, and mind you, just to frame this correctly, this is a guy that he was planning on staying at the Four Seasons for 2 months while he went to outpatient treatment, but instead he decided to go to sober living. So sober living, our sober living homes are really nice. However, they're not the Four Seasons. So his expectations, I think, were much different than the services that we actually provided. But the point being, there's way more to recovery than just not drinking and not doing drugs, because the drinking and the doing drugs, they're the solution, right? And then someone gets clean and sober and they seek other things to achieve fulfillment. So it's like you've got the drinking, you've got the drugs, you've got excessively looking at Facebook, you've got exercising, you've got overeating, you've got smoking cigarettes. I mean, there's so many other things that people can do. And when I first got sober, that was when I first really dug into meditation and breath work, because quieting your mind is such an important thing to learn how to do. It's just amazing. And I'm so grateful to have Jason Campbell here as my guest. Jason is the founder of the Zen Wellness Center. And let me just read a little bit about Jason. Jason's unique perspective on health, wellness, and spiritual growth comes from his lifelong study of music and the ancient arts of Taoist health, medicine, and enlightenment. He is a 7th degree black belt and co-founder of Zen Wellness. His meditation and Zen training began as a child through music. His whole adult life has been an effort to combine Eastern arts, wellness, meditation, and music. He's released over 20 albums. He's been #1 on the Billboard and Amazon and created 3 musical styles: 5-element meditation music, Zen piano, and new opera. The music has opened meditation to many who have never meditated before or who have tried and been unsuccessful in their effort to simply sit and clear the mind. Jason, so good to have you here. Welcome.
It's so good to be here.
So where did it all start for you, Jason? And I mean, and Jason, so I've known Jason for a while, and Jason has actually come and he has led little workshops with our house managers, who our house managers in turn have led meditation sessions with our sober living homes. So Jason's just a master. And if you can see him right now on Facebook, he's 50 years old. He doesn't look 50 years old. So he's got secrets. So Jason, tell me where it started for you. How did it start?
You know, I'll have to go back to when I was 8 years old on the piano. My piano teacher said to me, "Never ever listen to notes." And she said, "Idiots listen to notes. Masters listen to the space in between the notes." Because when you hear a note, when your mind focuses on sound, or in this case, notes, your mind is cluttered with thought. When you focus on silence or the space in between notes, you stop the incessant stream of thinking, the inner voice in the head. And when you drop the inner voice in the head, you can hear everything. And so your mind becomes very clear. Now, we didn't use the word meditation. I didn't use that word till about a decade later, when I was formally trained in an ashram and, you know, sitting and kneeling and doing breath work and doing all the physical movement and the martial arts, etc. But that was really my entry point to it, came from sound. And then when I was formally trained later, I thought, well, wait a minute, I've been doing this. Like, this is already what we've been doing. We just came at it slightly different, like a slightly different tool set. But ultimately, it doesn't matter how you get there. However you get up the mountain is however you get up the mountain. And there's many ways up the mountain. And don't be attached to which way you get to the mountain. But really, what we're talking about, and even it kind of points to some of your mindfulness or some of the training that you went through when you had the irate person who, in his mind, you know, an expectation was not being lived up to, whether real or perceived. He was going through that, and how you were able just to stay calm and have some space and respond as opposed to react, and that comes when you have more space in your head.
You know, the other thing I just want to mention this. So Jason and I, we were supposed to start this show at 9:00, and I logged into StreamYard, which is the service I use, and the broadcast somehow had gotten deleted. And so I wasn't able to figure out how to go live. And I went on to Facebook and I wasn't able to figure it out. I texted Jason. Actually, I called Jason, and Jason was, you know, his alarm wasn't set. So he was kind of unprepared. However, it's like both of us, there's no reason to react. And it's like, I think that the way, you know, tell me, Jason, from your perspective, how did we handle that whole situation?
Well, you know what? I don't even notice, because it's, hey, technology didn't go as planned. And if you get thrown off center every time technology does not go as planned, you're going to have a tough life. Because since when does anything even, I mean, you know, technology is a great example of it. But things don't always go as planned. And then you have a choice to how you react, how you respond. Is there space between the action and the reaction? Because this, I mean, this is just an example. Hey, you couldn't control it. You called me and we said, oh, okay, well, just text me when you get the link and then we'll do it and we'll roll. And here we are. If getting stressed and upset helped, then I'd get stressed and upset immediately. I do it all the time. I teach seminars on it. How to get stressed and upset. Well, shorten your breath, you know, look down, tighten your shoulders. Think about what else could go wrong. Think about all the ways that you've been a victim and every way that somebody's wronged you. now stop your breathing and hold your breath and make a mean face. I mean, we have like, 7 steps or so to
Yeah.
create, but most people are already masters at that, so they don't need my course. Um,
7 steps to be really stressed out. I
yes, and
love
to
it.
have
I
and to
love
have a
it.
miserable day. Maybe that's a book.
7 steps to be stressed out and have a miserable day by Jason Campbell.
But the
Okay.
first is
So
hold your breath and don't go
yeah,
shallow
yeah,
breathing.
yeah. Okay. So then when did you first really discover the magic of meditation and breath work? Like how did it tell me kind of the process? Like how old were you when you first realized this magic?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll go back to as a kid and training in music. So it first came from sound was my original meditation. And then when I was trained formally, it all made sense to me. I mean, I remember even at 19 years old thinking, okay, this is all the same. Whether you're, playing a piano, whether you're swinging a sword, whether you're conducting an orchestra, whether you're painting with a brush, it's all the same because it's about presence, it's about being now, it's about some type of art, some type of expression. And then the the real short version is, I mean, I did all my music studies and I went to school and I was trained and I had a career in music. But then in my mid 20s, I decided to devote full time to all my Zen training in my personal development. And, I opened studios and we started the business and, raised a family and did all those types of things. So I took about 20 years off from writing music professionally. And then when I came back to it 6 years ago, it was really, really clear. And okay, I'm going to blend all the ancient teachings, a lot of the Eastern teachings, and I'm going to translate it into music, but music for a purpose of creating more stillness. I mean, and so whether it's music for some of the breath work that we do, or some of the mantra, or a lot of it's meditation music, or Zen piano. I mean, whatever the brand is, it all points to that direction. Because most music is, if you listen to pop music, it's usually some type of combination of "I want you," "I need you," "I miss you," "Let's party," and social commentary.
Right.
And and I'm not saying that is a good or bad thing. I mean, I love music and all types of music because of the way music makes you feel, but it is usually that. And so, really, no, that's not my brand or the style that I'm doing. It's all for some type of mental stillness, emotional stillness, and personal development.
Okay, so music first then, would you say, is what it sounds
Well,
like?
I started it first, yes. And then
Okay.
I took a couple decades off before doing all the combination. Because if you look at, oh, okay, if you even look at meditation, see, one of the things that we do is we help a lot of people not just meditate, but a lot of people have tried meditation and not succeeded with it, or not felt like I got any benefit from it. Because you started meditation, okay, I'm going to close my eyes and okay, what's happening now? What am I supposed to do? Looking around, what am I missing here? And then we have people that come to us when they're honest. They talk about their experience with meditation. It was almost stressful because I'm sitting here being still and I'm not getting anything done, and I have
Uh-huh.
this list and I need to I need to get things done. Or the stress of, you mentioned something earlier when you said the addiction, and like media addiction or phone addiction. There's a lot of addiction there, and it makes the mind, I like to use the word turbid. It just creates there's very few or very little stillness is going to come through Instagram or like looking at
Right.
Facebook. Usually it just makes your head just full of stuff, and it creates it creates more thought. And so when we look at meditation, there's really three types of meditation, and we call that sitting, standing, and moving. And the sitting meditation is what you normally think of as meditating when you're still. But really, there's a movement that you can do, and there's a bunch of standing postures that you can do. And depending on, usually we start our members on some type of all three. Sometimes we have people that come to us that the sitting is very, very hard for them to sit and be still. So we say, okay, well, don't worry about that. Let's just give you some moving meditation, where it's a combination of movement, breath, and intention. And that gets it started. And then after a while, it becomes much easier to sit and to be still.
Right. Yeah, you mentioned that a lot of times people feel unsuccessful at meditating because nothing's happening. It's like
Right.
we want this spiritual awakening the first time we meditate or every single time we meditate, and that's just not the case. It's and not to mention it's practice, right? Meditation practice. And you also said, and I can totally relate to this, it's like if I'm meditating, I'm not getting anything done. And I've got a gazillion things going on in my head. And I'm like, I don't have time to meditate for 5 minutes right now because I've got a list that's, 300 things long. So what do you like? How do you overcome that urge?
It's a really, really good question. So if we think about, let's back up a few steps here, because think of the nature of mind. We really have two parts, and there's a teaching in the word human being, and the human part changes every day. Like you and I are very different than when we were 8 years old from a human viewpoint.
Mm-hmm.
But from a being viewpoint, which think of being as the observer, the eternal I am, well, the being doesn't change. And the 8-year-old observer is the same as it is now, and is it the same as it will always be. And when I say observer, think of it as that which watches your thoughts. And one of the disciplines, the internal discipline, is the ability to just watch your thoughts. And the analogy I like to use is it's like a cat looking at a mouse hole, and the cat just stares and just waits. And when you can activate the observer and watch the stream of consciousness, that creates a little bit of space between you and the thought. It's been estimated that we have about 60,000 to 100,000 thoughts per day, and 99% of them are the same thoughts we had yesterday. And so it's like a skipped record of recurring thoughts. And so the first step is just to watch them and realize that most of the thoughts you have, you don't need. It's just taking up headspace, and it's taking up room for new thoughts or something that's going to be more creative. And then when you start the discipline of watching it, that's when you can start to have a little break of no thought. The concept, the voice in the head goes, blah, 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 blah. And that little space, it's almost like a crack. Think of it as a crack that's letting light in. And there's even a Japanese word for that experience. It's called Satori, Satori, which roughly translates into a glimpse of enlightenment. And all you need is the crack, because once you experience it, you can't unring that bell. And so just by having that, you have less thoughts, less mental and emotional turbidity, and you have room for more creative thoughts or better thoughts, or it even changes the brain chemistry. I mean, there has been more studies than you could even possibly ever read or study that's been done on meditation and brain chemistry on meditation. But the real short answer is it increases the dopamine and the serotonin, which are the happy chemicals, and it decreases, or it can decrease, cortisol, which is like the death hormone, excessive cortisol.
So for someone what's the goal of meditation anyways?
To create space in your thoughts. But let me give you two answers. That's the first answer, because if you want something tangible, maybe that should be the second answer, but I'll make it as the first answer.
Okay.
To create the first step is to create a little gap in the incessant stream of thinking. So you have a moment of no thought. It's like it's a moment of nothing, and you're just sitting with nothing. The other part of it is you can look at, I always used to have one teacher years ago that would always say to me, there's no such thing as good or bad Zen, there's only Zen. There's no such thing as good or bad meditation, there's only meditation.
Right.
And just even if your brain is a turbid snowstorm and you can't stop the thinking, that's okay. Even if you just make your body still and connect in with your breath for a couple minutes and begin that process, that's okay. because with what you just said earlier, with practice and with just doing something over and over again, you do get better at it. The other thing that we find, especially in these pandemic times, is that the starting members with breath work is also very good. Sometimes if
Mhm.
you can't stop the mind, if it's just too much, okay, we got to get you doing some real deep, we call it, pranayama, or which just means deliberate breath with, inhaling and exhaling. We have different timed meditations that we do with that. The breath is everything. The breath.
Yeah.
If you look at somebody that's stressed, I'll bet you the person that was very upset and was yelling and screaming was not deep breathing. Very shallow chest breath, and they're
Mhm.
oxygen deprived, as that tends to happen when you become stressed.
Okay, so the average person has between 60 to 100,000 thoughts per day. Would it be fair to say that one of the goals of meditation is to bring that number down?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And I would just be curious to know if that could be measured.
I haven't found a way to measure it. I'm looking forward to it.
Right, right. It's like, how many thoughts do you have per day? And, it's like, and 90% of those thoughts are the same thoughts that you had yesterday, right?
Yes.
And how many of those thoughts are toxic thoughts?
Ooh, that's a really good question. And it obviously depends on the mind. And
Right,
I'll bet a lot of them. A
right,
lot of them are toxic. I mean, there's kind of a joke about the inner dialogue is the asshole that lives in my head. So
right,
usually the inner dialogue is not a nice person
right,
or spends more time being negative than positive. And
right.
here's the good news though, is that's okay. You're not going to change that. I mean, don't get angry at the monkey mind for being negative, because monkey mind is going to do what monkey mind is going to do. And if you try to say, "Oh, I need to think more positively," that's tough to do with the incessant stream of thought. What's much easier to do is realize that it's just your thoughts. Like, you are not your thoughts. The thoughts are just like clouds going by. And then the second thing is you don't have to judge them. You don't have to take them seriously. If you have really negative, nasty, ugly thoughts, okay, well, it's like clouds going by, ugly, stormy clouds going by. You don't have to act on them. And when you create that little bit of space, you also become less judgmental, but less judgmental towards yourself, because they're just your thoughts. It's okay to have an ugly thought. So let's do this. Let's give our listener permission to have horrible, nasty, ugly thoughts. Just don't act on them or don't take them seriously. Keep them as a thought, and then you just let them go, like clouds passing by. And then you don't even take them seriously. Then when you have, like, we'll call it negative or silly or stupid or ridiculous thoughts, you just smile and laugh. Oh, that's the monkey mind being crazy again. And of course it's crazy because it's a monkey. And there's an old saying that says, chain the monkey to the tree. And what does that mean? It means, it's another way of saying, like a playful way of saying, stop the incessant stream of thinking in the monkey mind. However, I'm going to add to the old saying, is that you have to go into it realizing that the monkey is a master locksmith. And however long you chain that monkey to the tree, it's going to escape no matter what you do. It's coming out. And it loves to trick you into even thinking it's still chained. Because here's what happens with members all the time. I mean, this is a process of development. You start the process and you do, one of the disciplines to stop the mind from talking. And a real easy one in the beginning is you say to yourself, I wonder what thought I'm going to have next. And then you wait for your next thought, like the cat waiting for the mouse hole. And then, eventually a thought comes out, and then you repeat. So it's one, again, of many different exercises you can do to have less thoughts. So here's what happens. You have a moment, blah, 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 and you have a moment with no blahs. Then the moment you realize that, hey, I'm not thinking anymore. I'm really getting this. I'm pretty cool. Wow, this is like, right. I'm not doing any more thoughts. Well, you blew it. But and I say that playfully because it's gonna happen, but that's okay. But the mind will trick you, and that's the monkey mind will do that. And then when you catch yourself doing that, you just have to smile, and come back to, I wonder what my next thought will be. And when you start to get this muscle of even just having a couple seconds of no thinking, it's amazing what it does for you, for your happiness, for your creativity, for your clarity, for your dropping judgment on yourself and even judgment on others. But it starts with that little crack of not thinking.
Mm-hmm. So what do you say to the person that says, I've tried to meditate, I just can't do it?
Well, we say a few things, and the first thing is, when you say I can't, and then whatever it is, you're usually right, because the mind's not allowing you to do it. So the first thing I would say, let's drop that. And if we want to say, okay, you didn't benefit from meditation in the past, fine, but then we want to take a different approach to it. And usually the person that has a really hard time doing it will start with some type of breath work, like deep breathing. We have a whole series of breath work exercises that we do. So it's like, okay, don't worry so much about trying to stop thinking. Let's just get you in your breath. And then, or even movement. And so it's because there's a combination. So here, this is the back of one of our books. And this is a very old concept, and it translates to mean Jing, Qi, and Shun. And what that means is we're made up of matter, energy, and consciousness. And so the matter is everything you can see, touch, and feel. The Qi is the energy. That's the breath. That's also the emotion, because you can't hold emotion in your hand, but it still exists as Qi or bioelectrical energy, whatever we want to say, but it's all things Qi. And Shun is spirit or consciousness or the awareness or, the I am. And so an analogy I like to use with this, if we have water or if we have H2O, it's solid, liquid, vapor. Would be the three. And so likewise in meditation, we have sitting, standing, and moving. And then when we do our movement, it's the movement, breath, and intention. And so I'll give you a couple answers to that. And so sometimes we'll start our members on just do some move, here's some movement, and don't worry so much about trying to sit and be still. If you're willing to go through some of the phases of mastery and say, okay, I want to learn this and I want to do this, well, then you got to get over yourself and drop the I can't, and just each day do a little bit and a little bit. Like for example, one of the exercises, the breath exercises you do is you pump oxygen into your body and then you exhale everything and you hold the exhalation. And you usually try and do 30 seconds, 60 seconds, and then as you get stronger, you build up. Well, we have so many people that are members, they're lucky to do 10 seconds, like holding the exhalation, and that's where they're at for 10 seconds. So I say, okay, if you're at 10, let's see between now and next week, make it to 11.
Right.
And between next week, then make it to 12. And then it's like, oh, okay, well, I think I can do 11. And you just get to the 10 and you just do one more and you're good. And then from 11, do 12. 3 months go by, they're holding their breath for 60 seconds doing it. And so a lot of it is kind of the mental block in the beginning, or just not really thinking masterfully yet. You got to master. Being a master in a skill set or in any subject is a skill set. Like mastery is a skill set, no matter what the skill.
Right.
And so, let's approach this from the mindset and the viewpoint of mastery.
It's like a tiny habits approach.
Yes.
Like BJ Fogg
exactly.
would say, start with 10 seconds, then 11 seconds, then 12 seconds, right? So what is the recipe, or what are your instructions to somebody that is newly in recovery, or anybody for that matter that is that wants to learn how to meditate? What's your advice?
Okay, so I'll give you a couple of things, and then can I give a resource as well?
Yes,
we have
absolutely.
a whole portal that we can do. I can give you that. It's everyonecanmeditate.org. It's a free portal, and there's a bunch of stuff, and we have music, and we have some exercises that we do in that. So here's the first. It depends on really where your starting point is, because okay, let's do a little exercise right now with the listener. Okay, I don't have time to meditate. I can't do it. This is too overwhelming. I know it's something I should, but I can't do it. Okay, let's do this. Ready? Close your eyes. Inhale. Exhale. open your eyes. You just did your meditation for the day. Good job. Okay, so you can start with one breath, and if that's what it takes to start, just do that. And
Right.
then maybe tomorrow you do 2 breaths and then 3 breaths. So just if you're having a really hard time doing it, just close your eyes and take deep breaths. And that can get you started. Now, obviously, there's a lot more as we go along, but I'd rather have you do that and do nothing, because 1 breath leads to 2 breaths, leads to 5 breaths, leads to 10 breaths, and then you can get comfortable starting to sit and be still. The second part of that is the discipline I mentioned earlier of asking yourself, I wonder what my next thought will be, and waiting for the thought, and see if you can just have a split second of not having a thought. And when you start, you have to find the time that works for you. Like a lot of my music that I wrote for this were 5-minute pieces to get people to meditate for 5 minutes. And there's a bell every 4 seconds. So you breathe when you hear the bell and you exhale, you put on headphones or listen however you want to listen. And then that's a 5 minute. I mean, if 5 minutes too much, do 1 minute. If you don't want to listen to music, put on a timer, a countdown timer, close your eyes and breathe for 1 minute. But do get started, because when you start this process, it is an amazing process. I've yet to meet anybody that says, I really wish I didn't start that meditation habit. I haven't found anyone that's ever said that. It's
Never,
usually, wow,
never. It,
this has completely changed my life and changed my body chemistry and changed how I relate to myself, how I relate to others, because it's the little bit of space between action and reaction and just the change of brain chemistry that's amazing.
yeah, and I can relate. It's meditation has been a game changer for myself, and I mean everybody that I know so many people that meditate. And so what about time of day? When should somebody, again, going back to the newcomer or going back to the person that's trying to learn how to meditate, when should they meditate? First thing in the morning, during the middle of the day, in the evening? Do you have any suggestions? Is there
Good
any time
question.
that's
Yeah,
better
really,
than another?
really good question. A few different answers to it. The first answer is whenever you can is good.
Mm-hmm.
So if whatever it works, and the time to meditate is now. And there's a
Right.
saying, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is right now. And so the best time to start a meditation discipline is 20 years ago. The second best time is right now.
Right.
And so the second thing is we do find that when you do it early morning, first thing, you have, I don't know if I'm going to say a better success with it, but it is good if you can pull it off. And one is the psychology of having it done with. It's like exercising. Like when you do, or there's something that you do in the day, when you can do it in the morning, you get it out of the way and your day is different. You feel good about yourself. Hey, I did my meditation. I did my breath work. But again, I'll take it anytime throughout the day. I mean, we have a lot of our members that will do little blocks of meditation through the day, and they'll just take a little or a little break here and just make your body still, or do one of the movement or one of the breath exercises. And you think of it as you're just pumping life in your body all throughout the day. It's like filling up the gas tank throughout the day. So the first answer is anytime. The second answer is do it in the morning. So the psychology, you got it done with.
Right. Yeah. And I like the morning. I mean, because my mind goes 100 miles an hour, and I'm sure there's lots of people out there that can relate to me. And it's like my very first thing before I get out of bed, I do breath work, and then I do the 11th step prayer, and then I meditate for 10 minutes. And it's like, okay, I get my meditation out of the way,
Yeah.
and I'm good. And I'm occasionally I'll meditate. I do meditate at different points in the day beyond that, but a lot of times I have way too much going on, and I'm not able to get my to stop. And so I just, next thing you know, I'm like, I'm ready to go to bed, and that's kind of how the day works. Right.
And you're very wise for doing it right first thing in the morning, because it also sets the tone of the day. Like, do you
Yes.
notice a difference on a day that you do meditate and the day that you don't? Do you notice a difference in your mental
Absolutely.
state or your, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I give myself an hour in the morning, and some people kind of make fun of me because, like, for example, I went and I did my workout this morning at F45. I'm up at 4 a.m. and I can barely make it to my class by 5 a.m. because I get up, I do breath work, I pray, I meditate, I do red light therapy, I get on my power plate. I'll tell you, that's time for me. That's self-care, which is, I've learned in recovery, it's such an important thing for me to do, to get my day started off on the right foot, to be centered, to be grounded, to not be reactionary. It's like, I don't want to be a victim. I'm responsible. And it starts by getting the day started. And I mean, in the past, I can remember, hitting snooze on my alarm clock, and then and 10 minutes goes by, another 10 minutes goes by, and then next thing you know, I'm running out the door and I don't have any time to myself, and I'm just completely sideways when I do that. And it's that time to quiet my mind has been just a game changer for my life.
The best investment that you can make is the investment in yourself. And to have that discipline, again, the morning discipline is good because it sets the day and it sets the tone. But that's always, you never regret the time that you invest in yourself, in whatever the modality that you do, because if you don't, well, the way nature is set up, it's kind of funny. God played this funny trick on us where, we're issued this body. You don't own your body. You think you own it, but it's not yours. We borrow
Right.
it. And because at some point we give it back, but it's really weird because we don't know when we give it. The two things we do know that you have to give it back. And the second thing, you don't know when.
Right.
And it also requires maintenance. It's like all things, like a car. Like if you don't maintain your car, you're going to have car problems. But the thing about the car is if you completely neglect it, you can replace a car. Good luck replacing a body. And so you have to do some type of work and some type of development just even to maintain vitality, because after like your early 30s or so, around there, if you don't do something, you start to feel it in the energy. It's like a energetic inflation that
Mm-hmm.
happens around
Right.
there. And is that a good or bad thing? Well, I wasn't consulted on that. That's the way nature is set up. And so you have to do that. So if somebody thinks, oh, you're so selfish by doing that, oh, I think that's a little naive to say that. No, it's actually selfless. But if you're in service of others, you have to make sure that your body is strong and you're in a good state. Because if you just give, let's use a metaphor like exhale. If you just exhale, 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 exhale without inhaling, well, at some point, you don't have anything to exhale anymore. So you can only give what you have in abundance of. And so taking care of yourself and having a self-care discipline, like whatever that looks like for you, is essential. And it's not selfish, it's actually selfless.
Right. So for someone that wants to meditate, would you say that is meditation just sitting there, or are there forms of meditation?
Yeah, what I said before, it's like we break it into three different forms: sitting, standing, and moving
Mm-hmm.
meditation. And the movement meditation, what that starts to do is it starts to loosen your body up, it loosens your joints, and it starts to circulate the energy throughout your body. Like we call it breath, movement, and intention. And then standing, there's a whole series of like static postures that you do with breath. And that's actually how you get the chi to move. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
think of steam rising when you stop. And then when you sit, the mental and emotional turbidity starts to settle. And that's why we call that the sitting, standing, and moving meditation. And there's examples in the website I gave earlier in the portal about how to actually pull that off and how to do it.
And I guess I'm also referring to, I mean, for example, I find doing yoga is spiritual, it's
Yeah.
meditational, it's physical. It's like, for me, So I do my sitting meditation every day, but then I have the other things that I do, like when I ride or when I run or when I swim or when I hike. Any time where I can be by myself to myself, I would consider that meditation to me as well.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's a meditation if you make it a meditation, because you can do a
Okay.
lot of things with meditation. And what I also I always advise, because if you think breath, movement, intention when you're doing things physical. So and gym work is good. You pump your biceps. I will say this, you build up big biceps, and I go to the gym a couple times a week. You build up your biceps, but let's remember you don't die of a bad bicep, you die of a heart attack. And
Mhm.
so make sure you're doing a discipline that affects the organs and the circulation of energy within the organs. But let's go back to the, doing curls in the gym. If I could clone you, let's say clone the listener, and one of you just goes and does your curls and does your stuff, maybe looking around, looking at the television or looking at other people, but you still do the exact same movement. And then your clone adds two things. First is breath. So you inhale as you come down. It's like you exhale as you exert force. Inhale, exhale. Or let's say a bench press. So it's like you exhale as you push the weight out. So if you add your breath, and then the second thing, if you add intention, and what does that mean? Put your awareness into whatever muscle you're working. So if it's in your bicep, you just close your eyes, you put your mind right in the bicep, you feel it, you feel every part of it as you're breathing and you're moving. I clone you. One person does that, one doesn't, one of your clones. After a couple months, there's a huge difference. Like you can spend the same amount of time, but you get a much bigger return on investment if you add those two things, breath and intention.
Okay, so if people want to learn more about you, more about wellness, how do they tell me how to find
Yeah, I'll give
you
you a
and
few
Zen
options.
Wellness?
Everyonecanmeditate.org. That's our like we have a whole system and we have a whole portal, and you can go in and get a lot of direction and get a lot of music, and we explain how to use the music, and there's links to
Mhm.
music. There's also, I mean, if you just want some other overview, there's zenwellness.us is one of it. And then if you want some more of my music, jasoncampbellmusic.net. But you can also find me in all if you look me up on all the streaming services. I mean, there's other people with my same name, so just type in Jason Campbell meditation music, and you'll get a bunch of stuff. But if you really want to pursue this, I suggest go to the everyonecanmeditate.org site, and then we have a bunch of info for you there.
Yeah, and Jason's music is fantastic. I mean, it's fantastic, and it's if you learn how to meditate, that it up is to breathe along with the music. So it's like you're breathing with the music. So it's set up really, really well.
Yeah, and it all comes from stillness. I mean, I do live this, what we're talking about. So in the piano music, the way it's even composed is from a place of nothing and a place of just complete stillness. I mean, I have a whole process for it, but when you listen to it, if you listen to any of the Zen piano, see if you can focus not on the notes, but you listen to the space in between the notes. Because even going through deep listening, if you say, okay, I don't have the headspace to meditate, put on one of the Zen piano songs. And the concept is that through deep listening, the space in the music creates space in your thoughts. So that's kind of it's another way that you can get there. Uh, what I said earlier, there's many ways up the mountain.
Yep, awesome. Well, Jason, thank you so much. I appreciate you. I appreciate you being on the show. And anything else that you want to share with people out there listening about breath work, music?
Yes. Okay. Two things. First, Tim, I really appreciate being on here, and thank you for inviting me. And your place is amazing. So when I went there before and we did some meditation, I mean, what you're doing for sober living is just cutting edge. I mean, just fantastic. I'm so impressed with just everything. The environment that you set up is amazing. And in terms of starting, start small. Set yourself up to win, even if it's one breath. Close your eyes and do one breath a day. You can do that. Do it right now. And then
Mhm.
you win. And then tomorrow is 2, because when you feel like you fail at something, you don't want to keep doing it. And so set up the game so that you're going to win, and make it super simple and super easy. And that's how you build a long-term muscle, not just in meditation, but anything.
People change best by feeling good, not by feeling bad.
Yes. Yes. It's so true.
Start small. And if your goal is 1 breath per day, then you're going to accomplish 1, then you make it 2, and then you make it 3. And so that's how to really create a meditation practice, or anything for that matter. So thanks again so much, Jason. Hope you have a wonderful day, everybody.